I'm Claire Donovan, 29, and the moment I understood exactly what I was to my family happened not at some dramatic dinner table fight, but on a Tuesday afternoon when I found my sister's wedding website listing the creative direction as designed by the Harlow Events team, which is my aunt's party planning hobby business, while every logo, every invitation suite, every venue signage set, and every social media graphic had been built by my hands across 6 months of unpaid evenings. I sat in my home studio in Austin with my laptop open and a half-empty coffee mug next to the mouse, and I felt something go completely still inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Something quieter and more permanent than anger. Recognition. Before I tell you what happened in the 3 weeks after I found that website, let me ask you something. What time is it where you are right now, and where in the world are you watching from? I always find it strange, and a little comforting that stories like this one travel so far. Go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'll read them. My sister's name is Brooke. She is 32, 4 years older than me, and she has been the center of my family's orbit for as long as I can remember, in the way that some people just are not because they demand it, not always, but because everyone around them has quietly agreed that this is simply how things work. My mother is Sandra. My father is Ray. My aunt, my mother's younger sister, is Gail Harlow. And Gail has been running what she calls an events boutique out of her house in Scottsdale since her kids left for college, which means she has a Canva subscription, a vendor contact list, and the confidence of a woman who has never once doubted that her ideas are worth billing for. I am a freelance brand designer. I have been doing this professionally for 7 years. I have worked for hospitality clients, boutique hotels, 2 regional restaurant groups, and a handful of wedding vendors who actually pay industry rates. My work has been featured in 2 design publications. I have a client roster, and a contract template, and an hourly rate that reflects the market honestly. When Brooke got engaged to her fiancé Marcus last spring, my mother called me within 48 hours. She didn't call to celebrate out loud, she called with a list. She wanted to know if I could put together the save the dates, and the invitation suite, and the wedding website, and the ceremony program, and the reception signage, and the seating chart design, and the welcome bag labels. And could I also create a consistent visual identity so everything would photograph together? She said it as if she were asking me to water a plant while she was out of town. I said yes. I want to be honest about that. I said yes, and I did not immediately ask for payment. And I did not immediately set a formal agreement in writing, because this is what people from families like mine do. You say yes first, and you tell yourself it is because you love them. You tell yourself the labor is the gift. And somewhere in the back of your mind you believe, without ever examining that belief too closely, that they see you doing it, that they understand what it costs, that the love runs in both directions. The first time I noticed something was off was about 2 months into the project. Brooke and my mother had started looping Gail into the planning emails. Gail would reply to threads where I had just spent 6 hours building a mock-up and say things like, "Love the direction we're going," or "I think we should push this more romantic," and I would sit with my jaw slightly tight, thinking, I would think, "The direction we're going." I would update the design and send it back and not say anything. The second time was when my mother posted an early look at the invitation suite on her Facebook, which she does the way people narrate documentaries, with captions like, "Brooke's vision is coming together so beautifully," and tagged Gail's events page in the post. She did not tag me. She did not mention me. My design work was in the photo. My name was not. I brought it up gently, in a text to my mother. I said, "Hey, just noticed the post didn't mention that I made those." She replied, "Oh, sweetheart, everyone knows you're helping." I didn't push. I should have pushed. I kept working. I want you to understand the scope of it, because I think people underestimate how much invisible labor looks like nothing from the outside. Over 6 months, I built a full brand system, color palette, custom typography treatment, logo mark, and application guidelines. I designed and coded the wedding website from scratch. I produced 42 individual print-ready files. I sourced specialty paper vendors and managed proofing rounds. I coordinated directly with the calligrapher, the printer, and the florist on visual consistency. I attended 2 venue walkthroughs to photograph reference shots for signage placement. I did all of this around a full client schedule, meaning I did it early in the mornings and late at nights and on weekends, meaning I gave them time that I could have billed at my standard rate, meaning the total value of what I contributed was somewhere north of $11,000 if I had charged anyone a single cent. I charged nothing. Because this is what you do for family. The engagement party was held in February at my aunt's house in Scottsdale. I flew in. My mother had asked me to bring the printed welcome signs I had designed for the party, which Gail had ordered through a vendor I sourced, using the artwork files I had prepared. I brought them. I set them up. I straightened the lettering on the easels and adjusted the lighting angle so the foil embossing would catch correctly, and then I went and stood at the drink table because no one told me where to sit. The seating arrangement had a table near the kitchen for cousins and peripheral guests. I was at that table. Brooke was at the center table with Marcus and his family and my parents and Gail. At one point my aunt stood up and gave a little toast and talked about helping Brooke bring her dream to life, and the room raised their glasses and I drank mine and said nothing. After dinner, Marcus's mother complimented the party aesthetic. She asked my aunt, who had designed everything. My aunt smiled and said, "We collaborated on the whole vision together." She gestured broadly. The room. The welcome signs. The printed menus, which I had also made. My aunt said we like it was a category that included her. I was standing 6 feet away. No one looked at me. I flew back to Austin on Sunday. By Tuesday I found the wedding website live, and found my credit gone, and felt that stillness move through me. I called my best friend, Danny, who works in marketing, and has the kind of brain that sees systems clearly when mine is too close to the fire. She listened without interrupting, which is the highest form of friendship, and then she said, "This isn't about credit. Credit is just the visible part. What they're actually doing is building a business asset on your labor and making sure your name isn't attached to it, so when it's over, they keep everything, and you go home with a thank you." She paused. "Has Gail ever paid you anything?" I said no. She said, "Has anyone even formally acknowledged you in writing?" I said no. She said, "Claire, that website is marketing for Gail's events business. Your work is in every photo on it. Your designs will be in every vendor portfolio from this wedding. You are producing the portfolio of a business that is not yours. For free." I already knew all of that. But when Danny said it out loud, it landed differently. It landed like the truth tends to land when you have been circling it for months without letting yourself touch it. Tell me this honestly, wherever you're watching from. Have you ever worked that hard for people who loved you, on the condition that you kept working? Drop your city and your time in the comments. I want to know how far this one travels. I did not make an impulsive decision. I want to be clear about that because people will assume I blew up a wedding out of anger, and that is not what happened. What happened was deliberate and quiet and took 2 weeks. I pulled every source file off the shared Dropbox folder I had been contributing to since June. I downloaded clean copies of everything to my own drive, because those files were mine, built on my licensed software with my assets and my time. I then sent a professional email to the printer, the calligrapher, the signage vendor, and the wedding website platform. I notified each of them that I was withdrawing as the design lead on the project, that my commercial license for the brand assets was being revoked, effective immediately, and that any further production using those files would require authorization I was no longer providing. I was factual. I was not emotional. I attached documentation where relevant. Then I sent one email to Brooke. I told her I had discovered that my work had been credited publicly to Gail's business without my consent and without compensation, that this had been happening for months, that I had decided to withdraw from the project, and that I was available to discuss a licensed handoff of assets if the family wanted to proceed with the current materials under a proper agreement. I blocked the family group chat, turned my read receipts off, and went to dinner with Danny. The printer responded first. She could not proceed with the remaining order because the authorization credentials on the production account were linked to my business email and were now flagged inactive. The signage vendor wrote an hour later. The wedding website platform sent an automated notice that the design license associated with the site template had been flagged for review and the site was temporarily suspended. Brooke called twice. My mother called 4 times. The fifth call was from a number I didn't recognize and turned out to be Gail calling from her landline, which is the kind of detail that tells you everything you need to know about how seriously she was taking this. I did not answer any of them. My father texted. He said, "Your mother is upset. I need you to call her." He did not say, "We're sorry this happened to you." He said, "Your mother is upset." I remember reading that text and thinking, yes, that tracks. The next morning, Brooke's future mother-in-law, a woman named Patricia, who I had met exactly twice, sent me a message through Instagram asking if everything was all right because she had noticed the wedding website was down and Brooke was not responding to her questions about the printed programs. Patricia was kind about it. She did not know she was stepping into anything. I told her politely that there had been a change in the design team and that Brooke would be in touch. That was the moment my family understood the scale of the problem. Not when I pulled the files. Not when the vendors wrote. When Marcus's mother noticed. My mother left me a voicemail that I still have saved. She said, "I don't understand why you would do this to Brooke right before her wedding." She said, "This is so unlike you. And I need you to tell me what is going on because people are asking questions and we don't know what to tell them." She did not say she was sorry my name had been removed from my own work. She said, "People are asking questions." That phrase. People are asking questions. Not, "We were wrong." Not, "We should have done this differently." People are asking questions, meaning the image was cracking, and the image was the problem. Paige, I'm sorry, my family doesn't have a Paige. What they had was Marcus, Brooke's fiancé, who I actually liked. He texted me separately from the family chain and said, "I don't know the full situation, but Brooke told me some things and I'm sorry we didn't handle this right. I want you at our wedding." That message was the only one I answered in the first week. By day 9, the wedding was 12 weeks out and half the vendor chain was stalled. The printer had production holds on 2 orders. The calligrapher had paused her final piece because the style guide she needed was in the files I had pulled. The signage company was waiting on revised authorization. The wedding website was still suspended. On a Saturday morning, I heard my doorbell. I did not answer it. A minute later, knocking. Then my mother's voice through the door. "Claire, I know you're in there. Please open the door." I want to be honest about what I felt standing on the other side of that door. Not triumph, not even anger. Something tired and clear, like arriving at the end of a very long drive. I had known they would come. Danny had predicted it word for word. She had said, "When the vendors stop cooperating, they will drive to Austin." She had been right. I did not open the door. I spoke through it. "Who's here?" "Me," your mother said. "And your father. And Gail." I stood in my entryway in my socks and said, "I'm not opening the door to Gail." A pause. Then my mother said, "Please, this is not how we handle things." I said, "You removed my name from my own work and used it to promote Gail's business without telling me. I'm not sure what handling things correctly was supposed to look like on your end, but I know what it looks like on mine." My father's voice came through. He said, "Can we just talk about this calmly?" I said, "I am calm. I've been calm for 6 months while my work was used without credit or compensation. You're welcome to call me. I'll answer the phone." A long quiet. Then the sound of what I recognized as my aunt trying to say something and my mother cutting her off. Then my father said, "Okay." He called me. I answered. Here is how that conversation went. He said they needed me to reinstate the vendor accounts so the wedding could move forward. He said the design situation had been an oversight and that Gail had not intentionally taken credit. He said my mother had always assumed I understood that the whole thing was a family collaboration. He said the word collaboration 3 times. He did not say I deserved to be paid. He did not say removing my name was wrong. He said, "We need you to fix the accounts so Brooke can have her wedding, and then we can figure out the rest of it after." After. There is always an after with families like this. The hurt goes in the after pile. The function goes first. The feelings go in the pile that never gets opened. I said, "Dad, let me ask you something. Before all of this happened, before the vendors stalled, did anyone in this family think about what I might have needed?" He went quiet. I said, "I've been working on this wedding since last June. I have never once been credited publicly. I was seated near the kitchen at the engagement party while Gail took a toast for work I built. Has anyone at any point said thank you, let alone offered to pay me? He said, "We're family, Claire." I said, "Yes, that's the problem." He started to say something about Brooke not deserving to suffer for this, and I said, "I agree. Brooke should have a beautiful wedding. I'm willing to license the assets at a fair rate so the vendors can proceed. I have already prepared a straightforward agreement. What I am not willing to do is hand everything back for free, let Gail keep the credit, and go back to being invisible until the next time something needs to be built." A pause. He said, "You want us to pay you?" I said, "Yes. For 6 months of professional creative work." "Yes." Another pause. Then he said, "I'll talk to your mother." He meant it the way people mean. I'll think about it when they mean no, but I can't say no yet. That night, I sent a formal licensing agreement to Brooke's personal email. Not the family chain, not Gail, Brooke's email. With a note that said, "Marcus told me he wants me at the wedding. I want to be there too. Here is what a fair resolution looks like." The agreement was reasonable. It was not punitive. It offered them full usage rights to every asset I had produced in exchange for a flat fee that was roughly 40% of what market rate would have been. I included a clause requiring that my name appear in the wedding credits and that Gail's business remove all references to the design work from her marketing materials. Brooke called me the next morning. Not through the family chain, not with my mother on the line. Brooke called me herself, and the first thing she said was, "I didn't know about the website. I want you to know that. I didn't set it up, and when I saw it I thought Mom and Gail handled the credits. I should have checked. I should have asked. I'm sorry I didn't." Here is the thing about an apology that arrives without a lawyer and without a crisis. It sounds different. It has air in it. It doesn't feel like a transaction, I said. "I believe you." I said, "I need you to know, I've been invisible in this family my whole life, and I can't keep pretending I don't see it." She was quiet. Then she said, "I know. I didn't see it because it was easier not to. I think that's true of a lot of things I've been easier about than I should have been." That was the first real conversation Brooke and I had in probably 4 years. She signed the licensing agreement 2 days later. She also called Gail and told her to remove every reference to the wedding branding from her business portfolio, which Gail did, with what I imagine was significant resentment, because Gail's resentment is the kind that radiates outward and expects apology. My mother did not speak to me directly for 11 days. When she did call, she did not apologize. She said she felt hurt that I had handled things the way I did, and that this was not how their family solved problems, and that she hoped I understood the position I had put everyone in. I listened. I did not argue with her interpretation. I said, "Mom, when you're ready to talk about what happened to me, I'm here for that conversation." She said, "I don't know what you mean." I said, "I know." I said it without cruelty, because I meant it. She genuinely did not understand. And understanding that was different from forgiving it. I flew to Portland for the wedding in May. I did not sit at the kids' table. I sat at a table with Marcus's college friends and 2 of Brooke's bridesmaids, and I laughed more than I had at a family event in years because none of them had any history with me, and people with no history with you will take you exactly as you are in the moment, which is something I had not experienced around my own family since I was a child. My name was in the wedding program under creative design. My aunt did not give a toast about the visuals. When the photographer posted a preview gallery, 3 vendors asked Brooke who had done the branding. Brooke told them. She sent me the messages herself, with a note that said, "I wanted you to see this. I want to tell you the part that still sits with me, months later, because I think it is the part people miss when they hear stories like this one. The consequence I had been most afraid of, the one I had avoided for years by just continuing to work and just continuing to say yes, was that if I stopped being useful, they would stop wanting me around. And what I found on the other side of that fear was not what I expected. Some of them did go quiet. My aunt has not reached out once since I asked her to remove the portfolio content, and I cannot say I miss the version of her that existed in my life before. My mother is still figuring out how to have a relationship with a daughter who does not arrange herself around convenience. That process is slow, and it is not comfortable, and I am not pretending it isn't both of those things. But Brooke texts me now. Not about projects, not because she needs something built, She texts me photos of her new apartment and asks what I think of a paint color and sends me voice memos when she hears a song she wants me to know about. She called me last month on a Tuesday afternoon for no reason, and we talked for 40 minutes, and at the end of the call she said, "I feel like I'm just now actually meeting you." I said, "I feel that too." She said, "I'm sorry it took me this long." I said, "Me too." And I meant it about myself as much as about her. Here is what I know now that I could not have told you 2 years ago. Being the capable one in a family is not the same as being loved in a family. Capability is a function. Love is a choice. When people treat your time like a resource they are owed, they are not being careless. They are telling you your value as they understand it. And if you keep showing up on their terms, you are agreeing with their assessment, whether you mean to or not. I don't work for free anymore. Not for family. Not for anyone. My rate is on my website and it reflects what the work is worth. I have never once lost a client who deserved to keep me. Last month, a boutique hotel in Nashville hired me for a full rebrand. The project lead found me through the wedding photographer's portfolio page, where my design credit had been listed correctly, under my name, because Brooke made sure of it. So the work I almost gave away, the work my family tried to file under someone else's name, ended up putting $30,000 in my business account through a referral I earned honestly and openly. I spent Christmas this year in Austin with Danny and 4 friends from my creative network, eating takeout from 3 different restaurants because none of us could agree, and all of us thought the disagreement was more fun than settling. I went to bed that night unremarkable and unbothered and entirely myself, and that felt like something I had not been allowed to feel inside my family for longer than I could name. So here is the question I want to leave you with, and I mean it genuinely, for wherever you are watching from right now. If the people who are supposed to love you most have only ever celebrated your usefulness, have you ever let yourself ask what it would cost them to love you when you had nothing left to produce? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. At the end of the day, boundaries are not punishment. They are not revenge. They are just the moment you decide to take your own name seriously, even if no one around you has gotten there yet. And sometimes the most important thing you can do for the people who love you badly is let them feel what it actually means to lose you before they've had the chance to figure out how to keep you right.